Welcome everyone to Bhakti Sastri class and Gita Sastri class. Thank you so much for joining on time. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Dhyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Velitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Diyuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Sajivam Sadavaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangscha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pashakta Deshatarine Namo Mahavaganyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaurtushe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesham Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyashta Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We'll start a new chapter today, chapter 15 of Bhagavad-gita. Again, one of the shortest chapters, only 20 verses. The chapter is called Purushottama Yoga, the yoga of the Supreme Person. Because this chapter tells who is that Supreme Person, who is Purushottama. That is explained in this chapter very nicely. Let's chant the Mangalacharan for Bhagavad-gita. Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Fullarvindayata Patra Netre Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaham Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vaitraika Panaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gitamrita Duhe Namaha. Look back. What is the cause of the jiva's ongoing bondage? You can put the answer in the chat box. What is the cause of the jiva's perpetual bondage? As what we discussed in chapter 14, what causes jiva's perpetual bondage, ongoing bondage? Thank you. The answer is the three modes, gunas, the modes of material nature. Are the modes of material nature eternal? Yes or no? I think the answer will come along with the question. Yes, the modes of material nature are eternal. The gunas are eternal energy of Krishna. That is true. The modes are eternal. So the influence of the modes on an individual jiva, is that also eternal? Is the influence of the modes on an individual jiva also eternal? No. That can end someday. It can end. That is not eternal. The influence is not eternal. It has an end. All right, good. So what's the link between that chapter 14th and this chapter 15th? The link is in 14.26, where Krishna said that if you take shelter of my devotional service, you can go beyond the three modes. By performing bhakti, one can transcend the modes and attain the status of Brahman. Mam 𝗄𝗶𝗹𝗹 bhakti yogena sevate sa gunan samatityetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in abhyavicharini bhakti, that person can go beyond the modes and attain the status of Brahman, which means the status of eternal life. So this chapter will tell us to attain devotion and attachment to Krishna, one also needs to develop detachment from the material world. Next step. Okay, we need to be attached to Krishna, but we need to get detached from this world. So in this chapter, Lord Krishna explains the process of detachment, how to get disconnected from material world. When this science is not understood properly, a person may never get detached. In fact, a person may get frustrated. A person may, instead of doing something healthy, may do something very destructive in nature. And instead of developing serious attachment to Krishna, one may just become more pessimistic about everything in life. Another word for that is very cynical in nature. So that's why, it's a science to get disconnected. If you don't do it properly, then it may not give you the right result. Sometimes when you are unplugging an adapter from the socket, if you don't do it properly, either you may break the adapter or you may break the socket. You may unplug, but in the course of unplugging, you may break one of these things, right? So as much as careful one has to be while getting into a connection, similarly, very carefully one has to disconnect. Healthy disconnection is important. So this chapter will teach us how to do that healthy disconnection. So many people in the past, they have tried to disconnect from material life. There are plenty of examples of people. When we study the book Nectar of Devotion in Bhakti Shastri course, Srila Rupa Goswami, the author, there explains that everyone in this world engages in these two activities. And they have been doing that since time immemorial. And what are those two activities? First is bhoga and the next is tyaga. Bhog, tyag, bhog, tyag, bhog, tyag. Now bhoga, you can say another word for that is connection. Tyaga, the another word for that is disconnection. So it's not that we don't have an experience of tyaga. We have lots of experience of tyaga. But our disconnection so far has not led us to be back to Krishna or spiritual abode. Why? Because we did not know the science of tyaga. Like Arjuna, before hearing Bhagavad-gita from Krishna, is he also not interested in tyaga? Yes, he is. I don't want to fight Krishna. I don't want to be a violent man. I want to give up wealth, give up kingdom, give up material comfort, give up material ambitions. I want to give up. He wants to disconnect. However, his disconnection is not being encouraged by Krishna, right? So it's not enough to just get disconnected. One has to know the signs of disconnection. And this chapter will help us in that, to understand that. When we do that in that way, our disconnection is very healthy and it is fulfilling. And it is something which you would never want to then get connected to again. But when the disconnection is not proper, then one has a chance of reconnecting to the thing which we have left behind. Right? So this chapter is therefore so important. It's only a small chapter, but it gives us many important lessons to follow. So let's begin with a discussion. Now, what role does the quality of detachment play in helping the jiva disassociating with the modes and their effects? Because we are talking that this chapter will teach us detachment. So what role does detachment play in disassociating with the three modes? We are associating with the three modes. That is the cause of our bondage. If I disassociate from the three modes, I'll be free from them. So detachment plays an important role. Why it plays an important role? Okay, very good. This Vidyabhushana Prabhu says, lording over propensity will be lost if we become detached. All right, nice. Anything else, please? You can raise your hand. Yes, if you want to answer this question. Okay, what role detachment plays? That's the question. Means how will detachment help? What will detachment do? Like Prabhu said, now someone else says makes you humble, progression from ignorance to passion to goodness, becomes attached to transcendental service, will get used to live without it, will help to progress in bhakti. Enjoy mentality will go, balanced and equipoised. Yes. Okay. No lust. Spiritual advancement. All right. Detachment. So detachment causes steadiness in discriminating knowledge. Detachment causes what? Steadiness in discriminating knowledge. Knowledge is steady when there is a quality of detachment. When detachment is not there, knowledge is sometimes there, sometimes not there. When detachment is there, knowledge is always there. Because when we are attached, what happens is, if you are attached to something, even if you have knowledge, that knowledge will be covered over by that attachment. That attachment will not allow that knowledge to be useful. Like someone likes to do something which should not be done, has the knowledge, but there is attachment to that thing. So even there is knowledge, because of attachment, that knowledge becomes covered. Right? But when there is detachment, then that knowledge will not become covered. That's why Srila Rupa Goswami, he explains in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu book, very important book, that you can become a steady devotee by knowledge of scriptures, but you can become a pure devotee only by renunciation. Cannot become a pure devotee just by knowledge. You become a steady devotee by knowledge of scriptures. But purity will come only by the quality of renunciation. All right, so knowledge, detachment causes steadiness in discriminating knowledge, and that helps us. So detachment or breaking attachment sharpens the sword of knowledge. So with that note, we begin this chapter. 15.1 to 15.5 is the first section, which talks about detachment from the material world. Let's look at the verses in this section. Shri Bhagavano Vacha Urdhvamulam Adah Shakam Ashwatam Prahuravyayam Chandansi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Saveda Vid. Next verse. Adhaschordvam prasita tasya shakha guna pravidha vishaya pravalaha adhascha mulanyanu santatani karmanubandhini manushya loke narupamasyeha tatopalabhyate nanto nachadi nacha sampratishtha Ashwatthamenam suvirudhamulam asanga shastrena dridena chitva tataha padam tatparimargitavyam yasmin gatana nivartanti bhuyaha tam eva chadyam purusham prapadye yataha pravrittihi prasita purani nirmana moha jita sangadosha Adhyatma nitya vinivritta kamaha dvanvair vimukta sukha dukkha sangir gacchantya mula padamavyayam tat. The first verse talks of an analogy. Now this is the most difficult analogy in the whole Bhagavad-gita for one to understand, which is explained in verses 1, 2, 3, and 4. It is the comparison of the material world to a tree. The translation goes like this. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Urdhva Moolam Adha Shakam. The root is above. The branches are down. You don't see that tree in reality. It's only seen in a reflection. A tree upside down. Never see that tree in reality. It's an upside down tree. You only see that in a reflection. So the material world is compared to a tree. Why it is compared to a tree? It's not that it is a tree. It is only being compared to a tree. The reason it's being compared to a tree is that we will easily understand how this material world develops. A tree begins with a seed. Then that seed turns into roots and sprout. Then slowly, that turns into a small plant. That plant will have few leaves. Then it will grow to become a tree, which will have multiple branches, multiple twigs, multiple leaves. So that's how slowly it grows into that big form. So similarly, it is being explained that the entire material existence, it begins in the form of a seed. And slowly it expands and expands and expands and expands and gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it becomes a tree, but of what kind? Not a mango tree, not an apple tree, not a fig tree. It becomes Ashwatha. Ashwatha, Srila Prabhupada translates banyan tree, because Ashwatha is a category. In this category comes banyan. In this category comes peepala. In this category comes many more other trees. So Ashwatha, banyan tree, it becomes like a banyan tree. Now, why banyan tree? Because a banyan tree is very complicated. So these verses will explain how our life becomes like that. Now, problem is what? Because it becomes such a complicated tree, then it becomes very difficult to cut it down. Very difficult to. If it's a small plant, you can, even a child can uproot it. Hold the plant, pull it out of the soil, finish. Along with the roots, the plant is gone. But if it's a tree like this, oh, you need to bring sewing machine to cut it down. Big sewing machine to cut it down. It's not easy to cut it down. Very difficult. So, but Krishna will, of course, explain everything, the process of cutting it down, all that will be explained. Here, the entanglement of the material world is compared to a banyan tree. That's the example given. And in the purport, Sripad writes, the reflection of this, of the spiritual world is situated on desire, just as a tree's reflection is situated on water. So we will discuss each of these elements of the analogy properly. That this was the previous picture I wanted to show you, that how complicated a banyan tree may be with so many roots, so many trunks, so many branches. Let's read the purport. Anita Mataji. Anita Mataji. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yeah, purport. Srila Prabhupada. After the discussion of the importance of Bhakti Yoga, one may question, what about the Vedas? It is explained in this chapter that the purpose of Vedic study is to understand Krishna. Therefore, one who is in Krishna consciousness, who is engaged in devotional service, already knows the Vedas. The entanglement of this material world is compared here to banyan tree. For one who is engaged in fruitive activities, there is no end to the banyan tree. He wanders from one branch to another, to another, to another. The tree of this material world has no end, and for one who is attached to this tree, there is no possibility of liberation. The Vedic, Prabhuji, can you please scroll up, please? The Vedic hymns meant for elevating oneself are called the leaves of this tree. This tree's roots grow upward because they begin from where Brahma is located, the topmost planet of this universe. If one can understand this indestructible tree of illusion, then one can get out of it. This process of extrication should be understood. In the previous chapters, it has been explained that there are many processes by which to get out of the material entanglement. And up to the 13th chapter, we have seen that devotional service to the Supreme Lord is the best way. Now, the basic principle of devotional service is detachment from material activities and attachment to the transcendental service of the Lord. The process, would you please, yes. I lost them. This means that it became in this chapter the root of this material upwards. This means that that it begins from the total material substance from the topmost planet of the new universe. From there, the whole universe is expanded with so many branches representing the various planetary systems. The fruits represent the results of the living activities, namely religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. Now there is no ready experience in this world of a tree situated with its branches down and its roots upward. But there is such a thing that tree can be found beside a, I can't see. Beside a reservoir of water, we can see that the trees on the bank reflect upon the water with their branches down and roots up. In other words, the tree of this material world is only a reflection of the real tree of the spiritual world. This reflection of the spiritual world is situated on desire, just as a tree's reflection is situated on water. Desire is the cause of things being situated in this reflected material light. One who wants to get out of this material existence must know this tree thoroughly through analytical study. Then he can cut off his relationship with it. This tree begins with the reflection of the real tree is an exact replica. Everything is there. Would you please scroll down? Everything is there in the spiritual world. The impersonalistic Brahman to be the root of this material tree, and from the root, according to Sankhya philosophy, come Prakriti, Purusha, then the three gunas, then the 5 gross elements, Panch Mahabhuta, then the 10 senses, the Sendriya, mind, etc. In this way, they divide up the whole material world into 24 elements. If Brahman is the center of all manifestations, then this material world is manifestation of the center by 180 degrees, and the other 180 degrees constitute the spiritual world. The material world is the perverted reflection, so the spiritual world must have the same variegatedness, but in reality, the Prakriti is the external energy of the Supreme Lord, and the Purusha is the Supreme Lord himself, and that is explained in Bhagavad-gita. Since this manifestation is material, it is temporary. A reflection is temporary, for it's sometimes seen and sometimes not seen. But the origin from whence the reflection is reflected is eternal. The material reflection of the real tree has to be cut off. When it is said that a person knows the Vedas, it is assumed that he knows how to cut off attachment to his material world, to this material world. If one knows the process, he actually knows the Vedas. One who is attracted by the ritualistic formulas of the Vedas is attracted by the beautiful green leaves of the tree. He does not exactly know the purpose of Vedas. The purpose of the Vedas, as disclosed by personality of Godhead himself, is to cut down this reflected tree and attain the real tree of the spiritual world. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So if you heard it attentively or read it attentively, you would have noticed that here it's mentioned that this tree is a comparison to a material world, and it begins from Brahmaloka, where Lord Brahma is located. That is the first root of this tree. And from there, it spreads into different branches. And those branches are compared to different planetary systems. Some are higher planetary systems, some are lower planetary systems. So they refer to different species of life or different kinds of bodies living entities acquire while they move around or wander around in this material world. Then it is mentioned that this tree is basically only a reflection of the real tree, and that real tree is found in the spiritual world. Krishna compared it to an upside down tree because Krishna wants to teach us that whatever we experience in this world is basically a reflection of a reality which is going on somewhere else, which means that real life also has variety. In real life also there are relationships. In real life also there are emotions. Everything is there. But then just the nature is different. That is spiritual, and what we experience here is material. So this material experience is a perverted or an upside down experience of spiritual reality. That's why it's been compared to a tree, an upside down tree. Now, when you see a reflection of a tree on a surface of water, that surface of water becomes the base for that reflection. If that surface of water is not present, there cannot be any reflection. That surface acts as the basis or the platform of reflection. Similarly, here in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that the reason we had a beginning to material life was because of that platform which acted as a water surface for reflection. And that water surface was our material desire. Desire. That's why he says here, desire is the cause of things being situated in this reflected material light. Desire. That water is surface. Now, if you want to remove that reflection from the water, can you remove it? You cannot remove it. Do we have to cut down the original tree? No. No. So what do we need to do? The only way you can remove that reflection is dry up the water. That's how to remove that reflection. So how do you remove the reflection of material life, material experiences? By drying up or finishing one's material desires. That's how the material reflection gets finished. No other way. Because as long as that is there, it will reflect. There will be material experience. So that is the clue that has to be removed. Right? Then the material experience is finished. Right? That's why you'll study so many books of actually realized souls. When you study their biographies, look at their life, it is so amazing and interesting that in a few moments, they suddenly get liberation. In a few moments, they suddenly get realization. In a few moments, now they're spiritually advanced personalities. The reason is because in that moment, this transition happened, this little change. And because of that, it's like just awakening from a dream. How much time it takes to wake up from a dream? Not much. As soon as you wake up from the dream, now that dream remains a dream now. It's not reality anymore. So this is that clue that desire, that surface of desire has to be finished. And there are many ways to do that. The impersonalist will say, make desires zero. But the Vaishnavas say, no, don't do that. Don't make your desires zero. Just change the nature of your desires. You make them spiritual. Otherwise, understanding is very correct. Even an impersonalist understands the cause of the problem very well. Even a Buddhist understands the cause of the problem very well. But then the solution provided is different. In their case, the solution provided is terminate desires, kill your desires. But on the path of personalism, the solution provided is change the nature of the desires. Now, the nature of the desires are changed. Of course, this will be written in the next few verses by coming in a different kind of association. That's how you change the nature of your desires. The desires go through a change, a transformation by coming in association. So in the class of transcendentalists, like the impersonalists, or in the path of Buddhism, there's not so much importance given to association. Their importance is given to living alone, living by yourself, being alone, not depending on anyone. But in case of devotional life or devotional path, there's so much importance given to association. Because in association, you learn how to change the desires. That's the only way to change desires. If you want to kill desires, no need of association. If you want to change the nature of desires, association is needed. That's the science. So, okay, having explained that, then Srila Prabhupada gives another technical explanation in the last paragraph. So we are done with this verse. One question now here to all of you, that why are the leaves of this material tree, banyan tree, compared to the Vedas? Yes, Hanit Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, the tree will have two sources of food. One would be the food which is coming from the roots in terms of the nutrients and the water which is absorbed. And second is the leaves which have chlorophyll, where photosynthesis takes place from the sunlight. So the glucose from the leaves, and so similarly in the Vedic scriptures, we will have various kinds of knowledge coming to us. So what is the knowledge that we are taking from the Vedic scriptures? So one would be knowledge of the Karam Kanda, and the others would be knowledge of the Nishkam Karma Yoga. So I think maybe that would be the relation over there.
Okay, perfect. So just that part, that the knowledge contained in the Vedas is majorly Karma Kanda, which makes material life better. So that's why the Vedic hymns are compared to the leaves of the tree. Because the leaves, if there are no leaves in a tree, the tree looks very ugly. Only when you have a lush green tree, the tree looks beautiful. Like you must have seen a withered tree. It looks very ugly, But when you see a tree blossoming with so many flowers and leaves full there, good foliage, it looks so attractive. So material life looks attractive when one has material prosperity. And Vedas, they teach people how to be materially prosperous. So now one who understands this will also be careful while studying the Vedas. Because Vedas can also make that material tree better and better, stronger and stronger, more deeply rooted. Right? That's why the verse says, one who knows this knows the Vedas, or the purpose of the Vedas. Lesson: materialistic mentality is to make the tree of material life look lush and green. But the mentality of a spiritualist is opposite. It is opposite. Not how to make the material life lush and green. So can we brainstorm here? What all things or possessions are generally considered to make the tree of material life lush and green? You can put in the chat box. Money, yes. Education, job, fame, prosperity, name, fame, family, wealth, beauty, pride, connection with God, abilities, money, honey, devotees, comfort, desires, knowledge. Okay, fine. Some of you got the question, some of you did not get the question. Okay, so here it means everything which is material, right? It can mean cars, gadgets, relationships, anything material, different education degrees, positions in the society, achievements, assets. All those things make our material life look very lush and green, beautiful. But that's not really spiritual development. That's only material development. All outward signs of success in present-day society. Now, further description of the tree. Next verse. adhaschordham prasitastasya shakha guna pravritta vishaya pravalaha adhaschamulani anusantatani karmanu bandhini manushya. Translation: the branches of this tree extend downward and upward. They go down and up both, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. Okay, let's do one paragraph, one person, so everyone gets a chance to read. Amrita Vilasini Mataji, first paragraph, please, you can read.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandana Prana. The description of the banyan tree is further explained here. Its branches spread in all directions. In the lower parts, there are variegated manifestations of living entities, human beings, animals, horses, cows, dogs, cats, etc. They are situated on the lower parts of the branches, whereas on the upper parts are higher forms of living entities, the demigods, Gandharvas, and many other higher species of life. As a tree is nourished by water, so this tree is nourished by the three modes of material nature. Sometimes we find that a tract of land is barren for want of sufficient water, and sometimes a tract is very green. Similarly, where particular modes of material nature are proportionately greater in quantities, the different species of life are manifested accordingly. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Next paragraph, Arati Mataji, you can read.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yeah. The twigs of the tree are considered to be the sense objects. By development of the different modes of nature, we develop different senses. And by the senses, we enjoy different varieties of sense objects. The tips of the tree, the tips of the branches are the senses, the ears, nose, eyes, etc., which are attached to the enjoyment of different sense objects. The twigs are sound, form, touch, and so on, the sense objects. The subsidiary roots are attachments and aversions, which are the byproducts of different varieties of suffering and sense enjoyment. The tendencies towards piti and impiti are considered to develop from these secondary roots, which spread in all directions. The real root is from Brahmaloka, and the other roots are in the human planetary systems. After one enjoys the results of virtuous activities in the upper planetary systems, he comes down to this earth and renews his karma or fruitive activities for promotion. This planet of human beings is considered the field of activities. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you. So this is another painting to give some idea of what this tree is. It starts from Brahmaloka, and then it has so many different branches where different kinds of living entities are there. And it has different fruits. These fruits are known as dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. The leaves are the Vedic hymns. So people are just entangled in that. Now you can imagine, think of a big banyan tree and think of an ant. You know, that ant can remain in that tree alone for millions of years. Still, it will not be able to explore everything about that tree. There will always be something new for that ant to experience in that tree. New fruit, new branch, new leaf, new this, new that. Basically, our situation is something like that of that ant. And because of that, there's always this curiosity in the mind of a conditioned soul. there is something which I have not done before. Let me try it out. Something which is new, fresh, not done yet. And that brings thrill, excitement. That becomes the cause of new initiative, new karma, further bondage. That's how it goes on. I have not tried this. Just like that ant. Oh, I have not tried this branch yet. Maybe this branch will be different. All the branches I have tried before, they were in between the angle 20 to 30 degree to the trunk. This branch is 80-degree angle. This will be nice climb, new experience. You know. That's how a person gets stuck. When I went to Mauritius, some devotees wanted us to take to a nature park. So there, they had this, I don't know what is that called. So there were these small cars where you have big wheels, and then you drive those cars through the mud road, So for 1 hour or 1.5 hours, whatever, something like that. So I was talking to one devotee yesterday, and that devotee was laughing, and that devotee was saying, how much price you had to pay if you wanted to do that? I said, Indian currency, 8,000 rupees, $100, 8,000 rupees. So that crazy people. I mean, you want to drive through mud, paying 8,000 rupees. In India, you can do it for free. You don't have to pay anything. And still you would not want to do it because your clothes will get dirty. And here you fly all the way from the US to go to another country to drive car through the mud and then pay $100 for that. And then you say, this is fun. This is life. This is enjoyment. Just an example. That's how everyone gets stuck in this material world. This is nice. That is nice. This seems exciting. That seems exciting. Just like that ant, this branch is looking very nice. That branch looks nice. This branch is, the surface of this is so hard. That branch is so soft. And the jiva goes on and on and on and on and on. So Krishna is basically giving this analogy to explain to us that it is very complicated, very complicated. Very complicated, right? I'll take your question later, Paramita Mataji. So why are the secondary roots compared to fruitive activities? First of all, I hope you understand what are secondary roots and why they are compared to fruitive activities. Anyone? Ashok Prabhu.
Secondary roots, Prabhuji, in the second shloka, it is mentioned that roots go up also, roots go down also, and branches go up and down. First shloka, I had this confusion also. First
so you are
shloka,
asking question or you're giving the answer?
No, it is answer and a question also. Secondary roots are which come, instead of going down, they come up, like in a banyan tree.
So why is it compared to fruitive activity?
Can I tell
because we are not going actually to the root.
Yeah.
We are only going to the surface, not achieving, not going to the root, which is...
No. Okay,
No.
someone else.
It is strong desires.
Okay, fine. All right. So basically the analogy is this. How did the life begin? Because of our situation. Look at the tree. The first thing that comes out of the tree is the root. So that was explained to be Brahma's situation. Now, once that is done, let's say a jiva became Brahma in one of the lives or the first life. And now once the material life has begun, now all the different activities that jiva performs, they become again a greater bondage in the material life. Now, what makes that banyan tree so strong that it becomes difficult to uproot it? The secondary roots. Because it was just one root, very easy, cut it down. But what happens is that from the branch comes another root. That root comes down, goes into the soil, and then inside the soil, it spreads around like a network. Again, another branch, another root comes down. Now, if you want to cut it down, you can't just cut the main trunk because there are so many other trunks. So it is compared to fruitive activity because every single action we do in this material world makes the material tree more deeply rooted. More deeply rooted. And much more difficult than for a person to come out of it. That's why I always tell people, of course, this should not discourage you, that the later you come in Krishna consciousness, the greater difficulty you'll have in becoming successful in Krishna consciousness. Because that tree is more complicated than when you were young or a baby or a child, So the later you come, the more difficult. And let's say if you have come early, the slower you make the progress, thinking, okay, later, when all my hairs on my head will fall, I'll become old man, then I'll take to Krishna consciousness seriously. Then it will be difficult. It will not be easy because the tree will be now much more complicated. Very difficult to uproot it. So these secondary roots are those desires, those material desires, fruitive activities, which makes it further complicated. Right? Next verse. Wait a second. Okay, we have a lesson. Now, how should we then get disconnected? It's explained here. Knowledge brings one's connection to the reality and disconnection to the falsity. This disconnection is called detachment. So detachment, true detachment is based on knowledge. Knowledge of reality will bring disconnection from falsity. And this disconnection is called detachment. It's not artificial. It is not pretension. It is not something which we are trying to do against our wish. It is something which we are doing in knowledge. In knowledge. Verse 3. Na rupamasyeha tatopalabhyate nanto na chadir na cha sampratishtha ashwatthamenam suvirudha moolam asanga shastrena dridena chitva. Krishna is giving the solution. 3-4. Sorry. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends. Can anyone understand where will the tree end? A banyan tree? No, no one can understand. Where it begins, can anyone understand? So many roots, you cannot understand. Or where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Now, if you don't understand where it begins, where it ends, where it is rooted, how will you cut it down? How will you cut it down? But Krishna says you must cut it down with the weapon of detachment. How will you cut it down? Just start cutting anywhere and everywhere. And someday it will be cut. Just start cutting it. Okay. Take help from the Guru, read Shastra by reading Bhagavad-gita and Srimad Bhagavatam with association, exhausting desires. Find out the point. Paramita Mataji, but Krishna says you cannot find out the point. So how will you cut down? with the sword of detachment. If after you have cut it down, now what next? If you have lost a home, what is next? You've been thrown out from a home. What next? What is the next thing? Next step. Next. What is the next step, Aarti Mataji?
Find another place.
Very good. Find a new home. So next verse is, once you have cut the tree of material life, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns. And there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. So here when it says cut down the tree of material life, someone said, start cutting, which means every single branch, every single trunk, every single root you are going to cut. If that's so, many lives will pass, still will not be able to cut down the material tree. Because our tree is huge, big. So how do we need to cut it down? We need to develop the quality of detachment, and not detachment from few things, detachment from the entire concept of material life. Not that, okay, I don't like this or I don't like that. No. Complete detachment from everything in material life. That is needed. That is needed. Not conditional detachment. Not conditional. Detachment from the entire concept of material life. So that overhaul is needed in one's consciousness. And that detachment, once done, can one stay permanently in that position of detachment? No, no, no. One has to then get attached to Krishna. That's needed. Detachment from material life, attachment to Krishna. That is needed. People in this world, they do get detached. But when they get detached, you know what they get attached to? Alcohol, drugs, overeating, watching movies, cinema, so many things. They get attached to that because they don't know that these attachments will not help you permanently. But however, a person has to get attached to Krishna. That's the solution. And that is not something which is to be done once in a life. No, every time we are frustrated with anything in life, we need to use that as an opportunity to be more attached to Krishna. Every moment it happens. That should be taken as an opportunity to get attached to Krishna. Let's look at this verse, few more words more. Asanga shastrena, strong acts of detachment. Dridena, repeated discrimination. So here, Srila Baladeva Vidyabhushana helps us to understand repeated discrimination on Dridena means the acts of detachment should be sharpened by seeing things as they are, which means a devotee who wants to get out of material life has to be always evaluating everything in life based on the knowledge taken from the scriptures. That should always be happening. That is needed. A constant evaluation of every single thing we do. It should be evaluated by what the scriptures say. Repeated discrimination of right and wrong, right and wrong, right and wrong, right and wrong. That will make the acts of detachment very sharp. And with that, one can cut down this tree, material life. Because if you are lazy or if you are inattentive, what will happen? Before you cut down one root or one trunk of this tree, 5 new trunks will be there. You cut down one, 5 new will be there. You cut down the next new one, 5 another one will come. So one has to have this very sharp consciousness based on knowledge of the scriptures. Then one can do that. Okay, now here we'll read this verse, now this paragraph, second paragraph with this purpose. David Prabhu, you can read, please.
Hare Krishna, the great scripture says, my humble obeisances. The word Sangha is very important in the connection because the attachment of sense enjoyment and lauding it is over the material nature is very strong. Therefore, one must learn detachment by discussing of spiritual science based on the authoritative scriptures. And one must hear from persons who are actually in knowledge. As a result of such discussion in the association of devotees, one comes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then, first thing one must do is surrender to Him. The description of that place, which having gone one never returned to the false reflection tree, is given here. Please, can you go up? The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the origin root of whom everything has emanated. To gain the favor of that Personality of Godhead, one has only to surrender, and this is the result of performing devotional service by hearing, chanting, etc. He is the cause of the extension of the material world. This has already been explained by the Lord Himself. Aham Sharavasya Prabhavan. I am the origin of everything. Therefore, to get out of the entanglement of this strong banyan tree of material life, one must surrender to Krishna. As soon as one surrenders unto Krishna, one becomes detached automatically from this material extension. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll take a break. Let's meet after the break, please.
Hare Krishna, Hare
Welcome back. So the next verse, this chapter 15.5, talks about how to go to that padam avyayam. Verse number 4 said that after you have cut down this tree, you should go to the that place, eternal place. Padam means place, avyayam means eternal. So how to go there? This verse, verse number 5, talks about. It's a very beautiful verse. Nirmana moha chitasanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kamaha dvandver vimuktaha sukha dukkha sangye gacchantya mulaha padam avyayam tat. Those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who unbewildered know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom. There are many qualities mentioned here. I have put them in different colors. Nirmana, Nirmoha, Jita Sanga Dosha, Adhyatma Nitya, Vinivritta Kamaha, Dvandve Vimukta Sukha Dukkha Sangye, and Amulaha. In total, if you count them, they come to 7. So what do they mean? We will study the purport, but in brief, Baladeva Vidyabhushana Prabhu says this. Nirmana means without pride, which is generated from respectful treatment by others. When others respect us, we develop a sense of pride. So nirmana means free from that pride. Nirmoha, free of absorption in what is false. Jita Sanga Dosha, free from the fault of affection for material things and relationships. Adhyatma Nitya, daily consider the nature of their own soul and super soul. Vinivritta Kamaha, free of material desires. Vimuktaha, tolerant of opposites such as heat and cold, happiness and distress, honor and dishonor, etc. Amulaha, knowledgeable of the process of surrender. That person then goes to Padam Avyayam, or spiritual world, back home, back to Godhead. These 7 things have to be understood, practiced, and realized. We will now read the purport. Raseshwari Mataji, you can read the purport. 15.5.
Yes,
A bit louder, huh, Mataji?
yeah. I have to begin from surrendering process. The surrendering process is described here very nicely. The first qualification is that one should not be deluded by pride, because the conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself the lord of material nature. It is very difficult for him to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know by the cultivation of real knowledge that he is not Lord of material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Lord. When one is free from delusion caused by pride, he can begin the process of surrender. For one who is always expecting some honor in this material world, It is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person. Pride is due to illusion. For although one comes here, stays for a brief time, and then goes away, he has the foolish notion that he is the Lord of the world. He thus makes all things complicated, and he is always in trouble. The whole world moves under this impression. People are considering the land, this earth, to belong to human society, and they have divided the land under the false impression that they are the proprietors. One has to get out of this false notion that human society is the proprietor of this world. When one is freed from such a false notion, he becomes free from all the false associations caused by familial, social, and national affections. These faulty associations bind one to this material world. After this stage, one has to develop spiritual knowledge. One has to cultivate knowledge of what is actually his own and what is actually not his own. And when one has an understanding of things as they are, he becomes free from all dual conceptions such as happiness and distress, pleasure and pain. He becomes full in knowledge. Then it is possible for him to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Sorry. Thank you. So the first thing is that nirmana. Yes, Mataji, it's difficult. It is very difficult, but it is not impossible. And it becomes easy if we follow the entire process under guidance. If we want to do it all by ourselves, it is very difficult. But when you do it in guidance, it is not difficult or not that difficult. So nirmana, first thing is one should become free from pride. Because pride is the greatest hook for material life. And that pride comes from satisfaction in material life. So one has to get out of it. And how is that possible? That is possible by looking at everything we have done or we are going to do, not through the eyes of materialistic people, but through the eyes of scriptures and saints. Then what is the value of that? Is that really worth what I have done in the past, what I'm doing now, or all the plans I have to do things in material life? Is that really that great? People of this world may say, this is great, but is it really great? I don't think so. So one has to first come out of that illusion and that pride. And when one comes out of that, then one is able to see the naked reality. But this is not so great. Only people have made a big fuss of it. That's all. People have just made a fuss of it because they don't know that there is something greater than this, something better than this, something higher than this. Because of lack of knowledge, they think this is the best. So once one comes out of that, then the next steps become easier. But one has to come out of it. One has to re-evaluate what is being evaluated by others as very precious, very valuable, very great. One has to re-evaluate. Is that really great? Is it so? It is not so. Like yesterday, I was looking at one person. He was cutting grass near a lawn. There's a new park being constructed by the government in this society. So he was cutting the grass. So for cutting that grass, he was using a machine where there is a wire put on the motor. When the motor rotates, that wire rotates at a very high speed, and then it cuts the grasses. So I was observing this person, and this person was doing that act with such pride. And, and because I was looking at him and I was looking at what he was doing, he was turning around and also looking at me and smiling. See, I'm doing such a big thing. In few minutes, I have cut so many grasses. I have a big machine in my hand, and this is a powerful machine. And because I'm doing such a nice work, so expertly, I have a reason to be proud of it. But actually, I was looking at that person not because I was amused by what he was doing. I was feeling sorry for that person. Why I was feeling sorry? Because every single grass he's cutting, where is he going? Where? To heaven? No. Where is he going? To every single grass he's cutting. If he's doing unlawfully, he'll be punished. So I was looking at his madness. This person is thinking he's doing something great, but actually he's digging his own burial ground. That's all he's doing. He thinks I'm doing something great. Now I've seen that same task done in a village, in a small place. People, they go with a sickle. I hope you know what is a sickle. They go with a sickle, and only the grasses which are big in size, they hold that with their hand. It should be that much big that you can hold it with your hand. If it does not come in your hand, means it's not big enough. No need to cut it, right? So you hold it in your hand and then you cut it. So in that, you only cut which are long. You don't cut anywhere and everywhere. You only cut which is long. Second thing, for that, you don't need to use petrol or oil. Sickle, you don't need that. But for this machine, you need to put some fuel in that. Third, when someone is cutting grass with sickle, no one gets disturbed because sickle doesn't make noise. But when this person was cutting the grass with this machine, everyone around was disturbed because of the loud noise that this machine was making. Now, most of the people who are so-called materially advanced and they have attraction towards material advancement, they will get attracted to this machine. Wow, what a nice machine. In few minutes, it does the job. But actually, it's not nice. It is not nice. In fact, that machine is taking away 5 people's job. And you are spending much more. If you would get 5 laborers to do that job of cutting, what would be the daily wage? Maybe 200 rupees per person. In a small place, I'm saying 200 rupees. So 5 people, 1,000 rupees, Indian. But 5 people will get food for one day. And here, that person has put fuel, oil in that machine. So much cost of the oil. Then because he's using the machine, his daily wage will be also more. And then he's also being more sinful. So we have to learn to see things with that discriminating knowledge. That's the first thing. Then other things will follow. But this has to come first. Nirmana moha. Then next will come. And then finally, one can know the signs of surrender to Krishna. Then one goes back to Godhead. That's the process explained here. Okay, now let's look at then what should he do? Who? The person who was cutting the grass?
Yes, Prabhuji.
He should come and sit for Bhagavad-gita class. That's what he should do. He should get some knowledge because it's empty here. That's what he needs. Then when he gets knowledge, then like Krishna guided Arjuna, he'll get some guidance in life. What to do and how to do. Okay, so next exercise. Find out one word that is common in 15.1 and 15.5. And then do these 3 things. Which is that word? What does that mean? And if this word is a common characteristic of both material and spiritual world, Why should we seek the spiritual world? Okay.
𝗵𝗶𝗹𝗹, Prabhu?
Yes, that answer.
𝗵𝗶𝗹 and Adhyatma Nitya.
Okay, so that word is avyayam, right? And it means eternal, everlasting or eternal. But then if that's the nature of material world and that's the nature of spiritual world, why should one seek the spiritual world? So one answer was because spiritual world is blissful and material world is entangling. Okay, good. Anju Mataji.
Yeah, Prabhuji, the spiritual world has, as it is said, entangling and non-entangling. The spiritual world is without any negativity, like full of love, full of free of duality. And it is, once you go there, you don't have to come back. But the material world has lots of suffering, which the spiritual world doesn't have.
Okay, thank you. So material world, though it is eternal, still it is temporary. Why? Because it manifests and unmanifests. And no position in this material world is eternal. So the world is eternal, but your position is not eternal. But in spiritual world, the world is eternal and one's position is also eternal. Right? Now, what will give you joy? A house which has been there for 200 years or a house in which you can live for 200 years? If you cannot live in for 200 years or forever, it doesn't matter whether the house is always there or not. Isn't it? So yes, material world is an eternal place. But then you cannot live permanently anywhere in this world. So in that way, it doesn't make any difference, even if it is eternal. But in spiritual world, one can remain situated in that position eternally. That's the difference. Okay, next section now. So now if we want to go to Padam Avyayam, eternal abode, there is a description about that eternal abode. What is the nature of that eternal abode? That is explained in this verse 15.6. That place is described. And if one goes there, does that person come back? That is also described. Na tad bhasiyate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yat katva na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. That supreme abode of mind is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. These things are not required there for illumination, which means what? Krishna is not just making that simple point that there's no need of sun, moon, electricity, so that you don't have to pay an electric bill or this or that. The point being made is, in this world, because of these conditions, life becomes very cumbersome. So many conditions, so many restrictions. You become dependent on so many things. But in spiritual world, those restrictions, dependencies are not there. You don't have to depend on all these things. But in material world, because we have to depend on so many of these factors, there's always a struggle to make everything perfect. Then you can imagine to have a perfect, happy life, which is again not possible. But in spiritual world, the arrangement is all perfect. There's no conditions there or dependency there. Those who reach it never return to this material world. So we'll read the purport paragraph by paragraph. Let's read the first paragraph. Paramita Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. The spiritual world, the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, which is known as Krishna Loka, Goloka, Vrindavana, is described here. In the spiritual sky, there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, fire, or electricity, because all the planets are self-luminous. We have only one planet in this universe, the Sun, which is self-luminous. But all the planets in the spiritual sky are self-luminous. The shining effulgence of all those planets, called Vaikunthas, constitutes the shining sky known as the Brahma Jyoti. Actually, the effulgence is emanating from the planet of Krishna, Goloka Vrindavana. Part of that shining effulgence is covered by the Mahat Tattva, the material world. Other than this, the major portion of that shining sky is full of spiritual planets, which are called Vaikunthas, chief of which is Goloka Vrindavana.
Thank you. Next paragraph. Tulasi Toshika Mataji.
As long as a living entity is in this third material world, he is in conditional life. But as soon as he reaches the spiritual sky by cutting through the false, perverted tree of this material world, he becomes liberated. Then there is no chance of his coming back here. In his conditional life, the living entity considers himself to be the lord of this material world. But in his liberated state, he enters into the spiritual kingdom and becomes an associate of the Supreme Lord. There he enjoys eternal bliss, eternal life, and full knowledge. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. And then Srila Prabhupada writes something very important here. Pankaj Prabhu, please read this slide.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dharma Pranam. Be captivated. One should be captivated by this information. He should desire to transfer himself to that eternal world and extricate himself from this false reflection of reality. For one who is too much attached to this material world, it is very difficult to cut that attachment. But if he takes Krishna consciousness, there is a chance of gradually becoming detached. One has to associate himself with devotees, those who are in Krishna consciousness. 15.6 purport. Hare Krishna.
So this is what will help us. Like Mataji said, very difficult. Yes, it is. But the solution is also being given. One should be captivated by this information. He should desire to transfer himself to that eternal world. And how can one strengthen this desire? One has to associate himself with devotees, those who are in Krishna consciousness. So Krishna consciousness and gradual progress in Krishna consciousness will make us qualified to reach that goal someday, one day. That has to be understood. One must captivate himself. This is so important line. That's why I wrote this lesson. I don't remember when, but someday. Krishna is all attractive, but we need to get attracted. We need to get captivated by Krishna. Krishna is all attractive. So just like there's a magnet, you need to bring iron filings in the range of that magnet. then only that magnet can pull those iron filings. If it's very far from that magnet cannot pull. So as Super Soul, Krishna is sitting very close to us, next to us, in our heart. Physically, no one can be that close as much as Krishna is, as Paramatma. But the problem is what? Because of not being situated in the same desire, though he is that close, he is also very far. There's a lot of psychological gap between Krishna and us because of the nature of our desires and his desires. And that gap has to be reduced. And we need to get closer to Krishna in heart, which means in desire, in service, in surrender. Then that attractive Krishna will start appearing to be attractive. So that work has to be done by a living entity. We need to get captivated. Now, reflect on your own personal spiritual life. What deliberate efforts you put in your life so that you can be captivated by Krishna and the spiritual reality? What deliberate efforts you put? It's for your personal reflection. What efforts you put? Putting this effort means going beyond doing the sadhana in a mechanical manner. Right? Sadhana in a mechanical manner means, well, I just have to finish my duty of chanting, my duty of studying, my duty of praying to God, my duty of worshiping God. One has to add some emotions to that. And those emotions will come with this intention. So what deliberate efforts do I put for this? What are my deliberate efforts? Do I always keep a picture of Krishna in front of me, that anytime I want to think of Krishna, I'll have a form to meditate on? Do I always keep some lecture tape, kirtan on in my house, in my living room, in my kitchen, in my car, so that I can think of Krishna? What deliberate efforts do we put? Do I go to those very beautiful sections of Krishna book, Srimad Bhagavatam, where there is amazing description of the spiritual world, about Krishna's beauty, about Krishna's sweetness? Do I go there again and again and read them or not? So what deliberate efforts do we put to get attracted to Krishna? That is needed, very much needed, Then only we'll get attracted. Otherwise we won't. Sometimes, of course, some of you may take it otherwise, but sometimes we should know we have come to Krishna consciousness not because we want Krishna. We have come to Krishna consciousness just because we did some pious activity in the past life. So we had this credit. We did some punya karmanam. So we got a chance. But just because we got the chance doesn't mean that, okay, you got the chance, now you will make it to Krishna. No, that opportunity is being given because of that past credit. However, once one gets that opportunity, one has to intensify one's desire, be more captivated. That's why Srila Prabhupada has very specifically chosen the word captivated. Be captivated by this information. Be captivated. Be attracted to this information. Then that will inspire one. Oh yes, I want to go back home, back to God. I want to be there with Krishna. Then one goes there. Then one's path going there opens up. All that knowledge is given just for that sake. Now, when we go to temple and you look at the deity, and the deity is dressed so beautifully. So if you get carried away looking at the deity, this pujari has done such nice shringar, Everyone is glorifying this pujari. You know, I'll next time do much better shringar, so everyone will glorify me. Or this dress seems to be so expensive. This dress is worth thousands or lakhs or maybe $1 million. Or the color of this jewelry is so nice. I wish I could have had that. I would also look very beautiful if I wear that jewelry. Or it's a nice display, colorful setup to give some soothing sensation to my eyes. Then one missed the goal of looking at deities. When we look at the deities, the result of that darshan should be, oh, Krishna is so beautiful. When am I going back to him? When? He's so beautiful. There's no one as beautiful as him. When? That should be the purpose. Being captivated by it. It's so beautiful. There's nothing as beautiful as this. Now let me tell you something. Of course, again, this is a topic of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. When you add these feelings to what you do, this becomes Raganuga Bhakti. And when these feelings are not there, then what you do is only Vaidhi Bhakti. When you add these feelings, it becomes Raganuga Bhakti. And these feelings qualify one to go to Golok Vrindavan. Without these feelings, one can only go up to Vaikuntha, not Golok Vrindavan. So this is subject of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, nectar of devotion. But because the point came, I just mentioned. So one has to get captivated by that. Captivated. It's very important, being captivated, that one should develop these emotions or desires. That's needed. Why be captivated? Someone may question. So Krishna explains in the next verse. Why be captivated? Because that's our nature. Mamayivamso jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha manashasthane indriyani prakriti sthani karshati. Be captivated by? Because we are Krishna's eternal amsha, parts and parcels. We are meant for that. We are meant for that. It's not something artificial. It is something very natural. You're meant for that. So be captivated by it. This is a philosophical explanation of that point. And if we don't do that, what happens then? The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. If they don't get captivated, they have to struggle very hard in material life. Very hard in material life. Struggling with their mind and senses. Struggling with that. Okay. You read the purport later on your own. Now the struggle is then more explained in the next two verses, in verses 8 and 9. The struggle is explained. So we'll look at verse number 8. Shariram yat avapnoti yat chap utkramati shvaraha grihit vaitani sangyati vayur gandhan ivashayat. The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another as the air carries aromas. Thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. So this is how the struggle goes, changes body. And how does the change happen? Explained here, the science is explained. Just like air carries different fragrances, aromas it comes across, similarly the subtle body carries different impressions, desires, and takes one from one gross body to another gross body. This is karshati, the struggle. always changing, changing, changing. Next verse. Shrotram chakshus parshanam cha rasanam granam evacha adhishtayam manaschayam vishayan upasevate. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. So depending on the mind, that person gets a particular kind of body. The mind basically creates the body as per the desires of that person. There is that change. Like, for example, if one wants to fly, hand glide, so then that person is allowed by the nature to get a bird's body. If someone wants to do scuba diving, then that person, can get the body of a fish. In this way, the mind creates the body. All right, so we'll stop here. Any questions or comments? Remaining verses will do tomorrow in the next class. 11 verses. Okay. We had some questions before in the chat. Can you please retype them or resend them? Why should anyone want to be insect? One will not want to be insect, but one can have such tendencies. Like, who would like to be a dog? But then what is the tendency of a dog? What does a dog do? Very simple. This is my area. Any other dogs comes in that area, wow, 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 starts barking. Can't come here, right? That's the tendency of a dog. This is my zone. You are dog of that road. I'm the king of this road. So anyone who has that kind of tendency, okay, you become a dog. Srila Prabhupada, he said the same thing when he was going through an immigration of a country. He was saying, they are doing what dogs do. Dogs say, don't enter my road, my street. These people are saying, don't enter my country. That's what dogs do. Just the way of speaking is different. The dog is barking. You are speaking in some nice English language. Don't enter my country. But the mentality is the same. So one would not want to enter into that body. But if one's thinking mentality is like that, okay, then yes, this is the body. Like some people, they really torture others, almost suck their life out of them. So in the next life, become a mosquito, become a bed bug, become a snail, an earthworm, and you suck people's blood. Right? So that's how it is. Some people are very envious in nature. So then you get a snake's body, very envious species. That's how. So, externally one does not want to be in that body, but one's activities will put one in that body. Okay, how are we struggling in the mind and senses? Well, if you don't know that, then you are badly struggling. Which means that, your disease is so acute that you don't even know, how am I struggling? No. We are struggling with our mind and senses. That's what gives us so much of anxiety, stress, problems in life. Our mind and senses put us into difficulty. Two kinds of miseries are there. Three kinds, but two kinds of miseries are because of ourselves. Our body gives us misery, our mind gives us misery. And then 1/3 is coming from others. Yes, thank you, Mataji. One wants to hoard their property and money, they become snake in next life, something like that. So there are such situations. Okay, any other question? Sureka Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Sadat Pranam. Prabhuji, in verse 7, it is written in the purport, the living entities are the separated expansions, right? Living entity is called Parashakti and nature is called Aparashakti. But nature is called Aparashakti because it is separated. Then if living entity is also separated, how is it Parashakti?
Very good. So it's not because of separated or not separated. The living entities are separated expansions means they are not, when the word separated is used here, vibhina amsha, that means that they are not like swa-amshas. Swa-amsha means Krishna's expansions in Vishnu Tattva category. Separated expansion means expansion of Krishna's energy. So the word separated there has a different meaning from the separated word which Krishna uses for material energy. This separated means it is not swa-ansha. So how do you call it then? So then you call it as separated. Understood? There are two categories. One is connected like swa-ansha, Vishnu Tattva category, and another is different category. So how do you put the other one? You say separated. Which means that Jiva is not equal to Krishna. Swa-ansha means equal to Krishna. Same potencies. But Jiva, lesser potencies. But when Krishna says my material energy is bhinna prakriti, which is separated, and because of which, not because of which, because of its nature, it is called aparashakti. That separated means that this energy of Krishna, it is not conscious. It does not have consciousness. In that way, it is separated. It does not have consciousness. It's inert. And because of that, it is apara. So the context in which the word is used is a bit different. That's why different meanings. Okay, Mataji. Next, Paramita Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, in the banyan tree, in the picture, it was the religiosity as the fruit.
Yeah.
So I want to know because liberation is the fruit of religiosity. And religious
No, not always. Religiosity means some dharmic activity. That dharmic activity may also be considered pious activity, punya karma.
But it is not the fruit. I mean, it is not the ultimate goal. It is a process.
You are again getting confused. There are two kinds of dharma. One dharma is which gives material growth. Another is dharma of the soul. So the dharma which gives material growth, what is it? It is also one kind of product of the material tree.
Yes.
So that way dharma also becomes a fruit of the tree.
Okay, that one.
So people in this world, there are people who enjoy being called a religious person.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that they are trying to get out of material world. They like being called, okay, you are such a nice religious person. You go to temple, you ring bells, you offer some charity, you're good, this, that. So they're very happy with that.
Okay, so mainly it reflects the karma kanda part.
It reflects the tendency to do dharma to enjoy material life.
Okay.
Gross or subtle. So then it's a part of the material tree. Even moksha is a part of material tree. Why? Because if the desire of liberation is, I am fed up of this material life and I want to get rid of problems of this world. So you get liberated. But then after liberation, will you stay permanently in that position? No, you fall back. So again, that fruit is only a temporary fruit, which means again a material fruit. Usha Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, we are discussing that when you come into Krishna consciousness much later in life, it will be very difficult to attain Krishna. And we were just reading in the last verse, sixth verse, that Srila Prabhupada has given us an advice that we should be captivated. It's not that we were not into spirituality, but we were there earlier. But as far as Krishna consciousness is concerned, we have come now. So how is it possible for us to expedite this and remain captivated, so that though we have a very short life now, we don't have that many years because we were not aware of it, first of all. So I just need your kind advice for us on this, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Good question. So the later we come, we need to put more effort. Then we can pay off for the time we have lost. More efforts. Second thing, at this age, I mean, what if after one crosses 50, 55, 60, spiritual development should become the only purpose in life. Everything else should become secondary, if required. Because this is the time for that activity only. The time for material life is gone. When we were 10, 20, 25, got married, 30, 40, 50, that's gone. Now, scriptures say, it's an advice of scripture. After 50% of your life is gone, then your complete focus should be on your spiritual life. No. So that shift of focus has to be done in one's life. That's very important. So in this stage, if one practices a lukewarm spiritual life, this will not help. Then this will only help to give you a better birth in next life, that's all. But this will not help one to complete the process and be back to spiritual world. So one thing is one's intensity should increase, efforts, and third, one's focus or time should be this only. This should be the priority. Then it is possible. But if one is still having one's, 3/4 in material life and only 1/4 in spiritual life, then it will be very difficult, so difficult, not possible. That's the only way.
Prabhuji, just from here only, Lord Krishna has also described our prescribed duties. And though we may have attained this age, but we still have those prescribed duties, and it's very difficult to, we like to do, just get focused on spirituality, but our prescribed duties also sort of, limit us on this, Prabhuji.
So we have to then get guidance on personal level, that how to reduce those duties, or how to do that in a way that still we get a lot of time for Krishna consciousness. Because you see, I have already explained that in chapter 3. Duties are not what you assume that this is my duty. Duty is what you're supposed to do as per the instructions given in scripture. Otherwise, everyone will say, oh, I have this to do, that to do. I'm 99, but still, there are so many things I have to do. The country cannot function without me. The world cannot function without me. This family cannot function without me. That one can go on, thinking like that. Isn't it? Right? So there's no end to it. There's no end to it. So one has to understand from scripture, what exactly is my duty? Is it my own attachment, or is it really my duty? Right? That has to be understood. Like I give this example, and no one should take it personally. I'm just giving this example because this is what is happening in modern day societies. Parents whose children are 30, 32, 35 in age, and they are doing nothing in life for many reasons. Of course, maybe they cannot do because of some challenge, but let's say they are not doing it because of their whimsical nature. And still parents think it is our duty to continue feeding this child. Come on. Now it's not your duty. Now that child should work. Right? Now it's not your duty. Now that child should do. So we have to have a very clear understanding of what our duty is. And that should be based on the instructions given in the scriptures. Otherwise, these duties will never end. They will always be there. Will always be there. If you have done everything in this life, then there are people who will plan. Let me do something for next life also. I have many things to do. So let me also start working for my next life. Next life, I'll take birth. So I should also start working towards that. So one will continue then forever. Right? So one has to come out of it. The proper time comes. Srinivas Gopal Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my question is, can you hear me, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhuji, in the first sloka, the Vedic hymns, we related these hymns to the Karma Kanda only. So why Vedas always we related only to Karma Kanda? There is nothing else.
Not only, it's majority of Karma Kanda. So that's why it's kind of compared to that. It's majority. That's why that comparison is made. You have to unmute yourself.
Because in the same Vedas only we got Brahma Sutras and then.
I told the answer, no? Majority. That's why. The explanation is also given by the Acharyas. Why you have to work with your brain to understand where it means what. The explanation is given. Here it is Karma Kanda. When it comes to 15.15, then Krishna will say, Vedeshcha sarver aham eva vedta, Vedanta krit vedavid eva chaham. Right? I give the Vedas. So take to that section of the Vedas. So we take that section. Simple. Okay, David Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Your Grace, please accept my humble obeisances. Please, Your Grace, at what age, according to the Vedic teachings, for a parent to leave a child for his own to continue his life without the parent? Because
25.
25. Okay. Because most of the time concerning the class today, we those who are very known in Krishna consciousness and we come at this old age, like you said, we find it very, very difficult because the more you are trying to advance yourself, it's more like you're leaving your responsibility to the family. So it becomes more complicated. And in your very heart, this is what you want to do because you have to work on your spiritual life. But so many times this become entanglement. So that's why I'm asking this question.
Yeah, so I told you, 25.
Okay, thank you so much.
We have to educate our children also, no? You see, the problem is that nowadays parents never tell their child that, my dear child, don't think that I'm going to feed you for life. There will be a time when you have to take responsibility for your life. Parents are never telling that. So if you don't tell that, then the child will develop that unreasonable expectation. So you have to tell, no? You have to tell.
Yes.
So you have to inform the child that, you see, take your life seriously. I'm schooling you. I'm sending you to the university. I'm paying your fees. I'm feeding you. I'll find a good girl or boy for you. I'll get you married. But then, not that I'll be doing this for you forever. You have to one day become independent, right? So now earlier what happened was, because the culture was like this, people learned it by seeing. Okay, in that family, that father left, retired. Now the child is on his own, right? But now, because we don't have that kind of culture and people are still saying that people have become so old and still they are taking care of their children. So, okay, this is natural. This is normal. There's nothing wrong about it. We can also be like that. So if you want to do something different, then you have to tell, yes, this is the day or this is the year. Till then, I'm going to be like this. After that, don't expect.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes.
So then they know that then they know. So you don't just leave them like that. You inform, right? You inform, you know. I
Yes.
remember Srila Prabhupada had a disciple, His Holiness Govind Swami Maharaj. So he never wanted to get married and his mother forcefully got him married. So when he got married, at age 35, he told his wife, my dear wife, you have 15 more years with you. Remember that. 15 more years. And so he told in advance, I have plans and I'm telling you. So you have 15 years with you. Prepare your mind for that day. You know. So he told, made it very clear. And then when he became 50, he left the house. Sannyas. So he did not just leave like that. He already informed, you know, okay, this is the course of life. We have been together. Now this is my plan down the line. And the lady, okay, this is what Dharma says, Shastra says. So fine, right? So it's not a whimsical decision. It's not a decision which you take overnight. It is something on which you deliberate and inform the other person, the consequences of that to that person. You give that person some time, right? And then you pack and you disconnect. Okay. So this is how one has to disconnect. All right. Okay, some more questions are there. Maybe we'll take it tomorrow. I'll just answer the question in the quiz box. Devotees also earn money, non-devotees also. What's the difference? Very simple difference. Devotees earn money because they know money is needed to keep body and soul together. But our main focus should be on spiritual development. Non-devotees earn money because they think money can give actual happiness. That's all is needed in life. So there's a lot of difference. It's not same. Externally, it looks the same, but the goal is different. Externally, it looks the same. The purpose becomes different. Next, if the material world is reflection of spiritual world, can you please help describing the place and activities going on Vaikuntha? It will take a long time, right? Long time. You can read Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3. There, one chapter explains about Vaikuntha very nicely. You can read that. How do women detach? Why can women not detach? They can also detach. If the husband is, like, let's say, taking sannyas, then women can also choose a life of seclusion, not living, of course, in the forest, but living in the house and still being secluded from household issues and just engage in one's own spiritual practices. If the husband is not inclined to take sannyas, then still the woman can take permission from that husband that I want to now devote more time to my spiritual life. You know, I don't want to now go out for parties and this or that. You know, I just want to now go inward. So if the husband understands, then a woman can do that also. No issues. So it depends on now what kind of husband that woman has, or what kind of responsibilities that woman has in the family. Not be the same for everyone, but principles are the same. Okay, thank you so much. See you tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada.